Queen versus pawn sounds pretty easy, but there are some pitfalls that you might want to avoid if you have the queen in the situation to prevent a draw from your opponent. In this video, I'll be going over 4 examples how you best can easily convert your endgames when you have the queen in the situation. So in this game here, we have a black looking to pass this passed pawn, and the thing that you have to know in these examples, when you have a queen and pawn endgame, if this pawn isn't here on the 7th rank, it's going to be an easy win for you. The reason being is simple. You just get your queen in front of the pawn. So in this position, you just go queen to h1, and once the pawn comes over to a2, you just put your queen in front of the pawn and then bring your king over. Because once that happened, this king has no way of getting this queen out of here, and you just bring this king over. And from here, you have your easy checkmate, you have your pawn, you're easily going to win the game. So that's like the easiest de facto way of winning when the queen and pawn endgame in this position. It's a little trickier when the pawn's already on the 7th rank though, because you don't have the extra move to get in front of the pawn. So we have in this position here, black is about to push this pawn over here. And while white can win here, it's a little bit more tricky, and there's a certain maneuver that you need to know. And this is a maneuver I use constantly to win some of my end games. So the white to move here, the thing that queen needs to do is go queen to c4 check here. And you just want to check this king. And let's say he moves over here to b2. What you do here is you just move the queen over here to d3. The king's going to have to come to c1 because he's not want to give up that pawn. And then you throw the queen check here on c3. This is going to move the king here on d1. Now, when this king is in front of this pawn, that is your opportunity to bring your king into the game because you want to get this king here as soon as possible. So from here, the king can't go here. So what is he to do? He comes over here to e2. The reason he doesn't come to e1 is because it's pinned and you give your king another opportunity to get closer. So after coming to e2, you just pin that pawn to the king again. The king comes down here to e1, and it's the same maneuver as before, but on the opposite side. You go queen to e4 check, he comes here, and then you come to d3. He has to come back. You throw the check here. You're basically in opposition to the king. He has to come forward, and you move that king forward. He comes here. You just throw the check here because the king's here. If he comes here, you throw the check here. He has to move forward, and then you bring the king forward. And all he has is here, and it's a checkmate in 2. So the big thing here is just make sure you get those checks in. Try to stay close to the pawn as much as possible, and make sure that king gets in front of that pawn so you can bring the other king forward. However, this doesn't always work, especially on a bishop's pawn. So any pawn on the 3rd and 6th rank here, this will not work. The reason being is black has a trick up its sleeve, and the way that you go about this is, let's go queen to b4 check. King moves, you get him in this certain position, right? If he comes here, you can't take this pawn, because if you do, it's a draw because the king can't go to any of these squares. So you have to be mindful of that. This is going to be a draw with a bishop pawn here. I mean, you should still try it, because if he comes over here to c1, you have fighting chances. So in that last example, we saw how a bishop pawn with a queen and king endgame can easily result in a draw. However, there is a way that you can win as white. So we have here the king is on this 5th rank here. If the king can get over here to the 4th rank opposite of the pawn, he has a chance of winning. The reason being, we're going to let this pawn queen. And by doing that, now we're going to go king to b3 here, opposition with the king. And you can see here that there is no good checks with this pawn here, right? The queen is all sorts of dead in the water, and you are now threatening checkmate. So queen to a3 is black's best try. King takes a3, king moves back. But at this point, it's just checkmate. So if you have the king close enough in that kind of endgame position, you have a chance at winning. But the queen and pawn endgame is an endgame that you need to have down pat to easily convert more of your easily winnable games into wins. So if you like that video, please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and comment down below if this is helpful in any ways, or if you have any questions. Our next video will be a queen versus queen and pawn endgame. That video will be here, and we'll see you next time.